Okay, with everything being said, I'm going to get this out of the way real quick, just not in this review, so it will not be a spoiler-filled review, but let's have this being noted right from the beginning. There is one plot point that if you have not paid attention to the marketing, including the posters that Warner Brothers have distributed themselves, you might call this a teaser spoiler review. It is not. The only thing I will be revealing is something that everyone knew. This is a public secret that we're going to pretend is a secret, but I'm going to talk about it in this review because you kind of have to talk about it when you're talking about this movie. So with that said, let's move on to the review. Okay, thank you for that introduction, sir. Now we can go on to this. Today we just saw the latest movie in the DECU, which apparently that's not the name of it because they don't know what they're doing at the WB and all this. So let's just go right in ahead. I know I kind of offended a lot of people with my review of Lady Bird, or at least the critics. This time I'm going to offend a whole bunch of other people, the other side, the fans. Yeah. Want to get it from both ends. And that is not a sexual innuendo. So let's just see what Warner Brothers threw $300 million at, which will cause people to be pissed off at you one way or the other. And let's get into Justice League. Okay, how I usually do these reviews is we do basic plot, characters, good, bad, anything left to say, score, bring me home. Okay, we're going to stay with that same premise. Plot of the story. Batman knows that from what we saw, remember this takes place right after Batman vs. Superman, so he knows that invaders are coming because he had a dream, but he also had a, let's not think too much about Batman vs. Superman. So Batman figures out that invaders are coming. He happens to see Lex Luthor's notes and sees that there's 3 magical cubes. And he has to figure out, oh, I need to get a group together to fight off these people who are coming. And then the movie happens. That's the basic outline of the movie. There's really nothing more than this. And I will say one thing. They figured out how to have a beginning, middle, and end. There's an introduction, there's a second act, there's a third act, movie ends. Congratulations, Warner Brothers! I would say it took you 5 movies, but I haven't seen Wonder Woman, so I'll just say this. 4 out of 5 movies, I can confirm you actually have a proper structure for a movie. That's a lot to be congratulatory about. Let's go with the characters. No, let's go with good and bad, because then that kind of weeds everything out. The good, the movie's not terrible. I didn't leave this movie angry like I did Batman vs. Superman. I didn't see Suicide Squad in the theaters. I saw it on home video, and I wasn't sitting there going, what the hell is the point of this movie? This is one long music video? But it's not as good as Man of Steel, because Man of Steel was actually kind of interesting for the first half, and then the second half, it went where it went. This movie is an ensemble piece, and I not gonna lie, the ensemble parts were kind of interesting, and we'll leave it at that, and then I'll have more to say about that in the bad parts. Some of the fight scenes could be pretty good, but at the same time, I either A, felt the action scenes were people mugging for a cool screenshot, or that they were kind of just there to look cool. I will say this, for everyone who says there's no good interactions between the characters, I actually think there kind of is. The rift between the characters were pretty good, although they felt wildly out of place, especially when you're coming from Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman, where everything was super grim. Sometimes that hurts the jokes in this movie. And I know you're going to say, so hold it right there. I know you're going to say you have to judge each movie on its own, but these are movies that depend on a continuum. So they're not alone. So take that. Ben Affleck, I think, is really good. Once again, he's probably the star of the movie. But at the same time, he kind of looks like he looks like Jennifer Lawrence in X-Men Apocalypse, where he's just like, can I go now? Henry Cavill, and this is the part where we're going to get mild spoilers. I mean, you know, there's only a poster with him in it, so I'm going to assume he's in it. Henry Cavill, when he gets to be Superman, is actually pretty good in this movie. He's way more likable in the last two movies, where he was just a cauldron of murk and nothing likable about him. So, Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, she's fine. I can't say anything bad about her. She did her job respectfully. I kind of think, I'm not gonna lie, for one who I don't like the feminist movement at all, they took advantage of her a lot in this movie, but we'll get to that when we get to it. Cyborg was alright. I kind of like the shortness of the introductions for Flash, Cyborg, and Aquaman, because it didn't lead us to an origin story. They just said whatever they had to say. It kind of reminded me of Spider-Man Homecoming, where he kind of just brushed past. He's like, oh, I got bit by a spider. Oh, something tragic happened to my aunt. That's fine. I don't want to see an origin story. But at the same time, there's a lot to unpack there. And on the last thing, I have to say for the good side, is that it was nice to see Superman be Superman. Alright, now here's where we get to the bad. Oh, where do I start? There's so much bad. Fucking hell, did I really need to see Gal Gadot's butt 18 times in this movie? At least. There's probably a lot more than that. Anytime she's dressed as a regular self, they always have to shoot her from behind. I don't know who's to blame, Josh Whedon or Zack Snyder. I'm going to probably say Zack Snyder, because he likes to shoot figures. Usually it's male figures. But if you've ever seen Sucker Punch, I wouldn't be shocked if it's him. And Gal Gadot has kind of like nothing to do in this movie other than be the female of the group, in all honesty. She does have a couple of good moments. There's a really good scene between her and Bruce where they're talking about, you know, what the team is about. Actually, Ben Affleck and Gal Gadot have a couple of good scenes, but there's one scene that really annoyed me. The scene where they talk about, alright, once again, mild spoilers. They talk about resurrecting Superman. And I'm surprised no one has caught up on this scene, or at least that I've seen as of this time I'm doing this. They're talking about a Superman that doesn't fucking exist in this universe. Affleck says Superman is a person of hope and a virtue for people. Holy shit, what the fuck Superman were you watching? Cause he has nothing been more than a brooding grump through the last two movies. At one point I was really sitting there going, are they talking about Superman 1 and 2 that was made in the 70s and early 80s? Because Henry Cavill has never been a beacon of hope. Oh, and by the way, the opening scene, they try to shoehorn this bullshit in. Hell no, it doesn't work. You have to remember, this is a man who, one, let people die in Man of Steel. Two, was freaking grieving that whole movie more or less. Three, had no problem with destroying Metropolis. And then in Batman vs. Superman, once again, while he did do good in that film, he was just like completely unlikable. And so it was just like, who are you talking about? And there's a couple of scenes like that where they're talking about each other or talking about other characters, and it was just like, when did that happen? Are you talking about the comics? Because if you are, that's fine. But this isn't comic related. This is a freaking movie that you're spending $300 million on to be absolutely peed on. The special effects in this movie are absolutely PS2 levels of goodness. In case you don't know, PS2 came out about 15 years ago. Yeah. Cyborg in every scene looks terrible, especially when he has to move from side to side. He looks fucking awful because you can see where his face is cutting off and the CGI is taking over for the rest of his body. It is fucking distracting as shit. The main villain, who is Steppenwolf, looks like a character from God of War. He looks like cutscenes from God of War. This movie has issues with their CGI. And I understand they had problems because many scenes had to be re-recorded because of the issue that, listen, man, when he's down, I've never been a Zack Snyder fan. I think he's more of a cinematographer than a director. But it's shot badly. The CGI for Steppenwolf looks straight out of God of War, and it was freaking distracting, especially when he's going up against other characters who are straight up CGI. Holy shit, the backgrounds in this movie are fucking awful. Every scene when Aquaman at the beginning of the movie was standing against the ocean, or he was in the ocean, it was so distracting that the backgrounds looked like they were hand-drawn pre-Lord of the Rings. Watch Lord of the Rings, which came out in the early 2000s. Those matte paintings for the background look way more authentic than the backgrounds in this movie. I was just looking and it's like, oh look, somebody drew a background. Maybe it was the person, maybe it was Deadpool who was in the trailer for this movie. It was bad. The special effects in this movie are awful. Oh, there's another oh, fuck. I don't want to shit on this movie because it wasn't terrible. It was actually kind of passable, but there's so many things in the bad column that trump the good column. Fuck Edris Miller. Holy shit was he annoying in this movie. I couldn't wait for someone to punch him in the face, hit him, or for him to just shut the fuck up. He was annoying. Him above any other character in this movie is going to be hit or miss. You're either going to like him because you think he's funny and quirky, or you're going to find him annoying and want him to have his jaw wired shut. I'm in that column. None of his jokes land. He's literally Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory. Cosplaying in the middle of a superhero movie, and he is super distracting. He's more distracting than Jason Momoa, who I find freaking fascinatingly interested at the fact that he is a surfer bro in this movie. Literally. Holy crap. Jason Momoa, I'm not gonna lie, I don't hate wanting to see him in an Aquaman movie, but I'm not excited from this. He is literally a character who lives to be there because he's a defined person and he's kind of tall, because I don't think he's that much taller than me, and I'm 6'1". You know, I can tell from movies I've seen him in before, like Conan. I saw him in The Bad Batch, where he's literally just there, just, you know, not to have his shirt on. Henry Cable's fine, but he just shows up without any fanfare, leaves, and is literally an ex machina at the end. I've already said what I had to say about the main villain, Steppenwolf. I actually like Steppenwolf the band better than I like this dude. The ending is absolute, oh my god, just patting yourself on the back. Or it's literally like most of the movie. Actually, there's a pretty good part in most of the movie where I literally felt all the scenes were shot to be on a Topps baseball card. That's literally what a lot of this movie felt like. It felt like a lot of just, you know, a lot of poses. That's about it. One more bad thing before I have to go. Holy shit, the CGI in Henry Cable's face was awful at the first scene. You know you have a bad movie when the first scene in the movie looks like a character's face was CGI to fall into itself. Even if you didn't know that Henry Cable is currently shooting the next Mission Impossible movie where he has to have a mustache, and he had a contract with Paramount, which, you know, they're trying to do everything they can to have a hit because that's a team that's having problems. So they had to CGI out his mustache. Later on in the movie, it's not as distracting, but in the first scene in the movie, it looks like his face is collapsing into himself because they have to put extra definition around here to, it kind of looks like that thing happening throughout the whole movie with a family. And this pissed me off in the movie. And this is actually pissing me off now because I actually came back down. I just saw the movie like a couple of hours ago. And I was a little bit more forgiving of it a couple minutes ago. Now that I think about it, this movie actually pisses me off more. This movie was corporately mandated from 2 movies to 1 movie to you have to be under 2 hours. This movie keeps cutting to a family that has nothing to do with the plot, has nothing to do with anything. I just kept waiting after they kept cutting back to them multiple times. Okay, maybe this is setting up something. It fucking doesn't. It ends on a cheap joke that wasn't fucking funny. Which made it worse because it made it a complete and utter waste of my viewing time. And where I could have had... Listen, as much as the battle scenes were more like people posing for a trading card, maybe you could have gave some more characterization to some of the people. Maybe you could have had, you know, Gal Gadot actually act. Something. Maybe you could have made the villain more like a villain who wants to destroy the world because he wants to destroy the world and maybe he wants diamonds. I don't know. That pissed me off. The ending scene was so freaking ridiculously cheesy. I think a better name for this movie instead of Justice League would have been Justice Bros. Because while their interactions were fun, there's just too much distraction in this movie for it to be fun, or at least for me. And before anyone says anything about me being a Marvel fan, remember this: I didn't like Civil War. Take that for what you will. I want to wind this down because I'm kind of tired. It's late right now. I wanted to give it a higher grade once I got home and thought about, you know, some of the fight scenes were cool. Choreography was kind of cool. But the CGI was awful. Story didn't make sense. There was a scene where, like I said, where Batman talked to Wonder Woman about Superman. And I was like, I have no idea who you're talking about. That's not the characters in these movies. Flash was annoying as hell. There was no reason for Ben Affleck as Batman to be shooting as many one-liners as he could while he was carefully looking off screen going, 3 movies, right? 3? That's all I have to do? Okay. Alright, I can do my own movies. Brad Pitt needs a director who will act in his own movies. Okay, I'll do that. It does give you kind of future hope because it's a change in the direction of maybe something being good in this DCU, but this isn't it. I'm not gonna lie, I probably will rate movies higher that I didn't like, but this still isn't a good movie. It's currently at 36% on Rotten Tomatoes, and like I said, I'm gonna have to agree with the reviewers on this. I give it a 3.8. It almost became middling of the road, but there's just so much wrong with this movie. And just so everyone knows, don't leave the movie theaters until the lights go up and there's nothing else on the screen. Maybe you'll enjoy the scene. I kind of liked the first one. It was kind of funny. I won't say who's in it, but it was kind of funny, but one of the people just, I couldn't stand him. So that's it for today. I'll probably post this tonight or early tomorrow. Once again, if you like it, I'm pretty sure a lot of people won't. That's my review. Like, dislike, whatever. Subscribe. Jeff has his own video channel. The link will be in the description. Until next time. Yeah, this is a lot to do. This is actually kind of a long review. I'm not sure if Jeff's gonna watch it with me so we can do a full spoiler review, but yeah, that's about it. I'm tired, man. Bye.